Reading scholars. Today I've just got a quick bonus, rhetorical analysis for you, looking at some of these vintage public health posters. Um, so we will get into visual rhetoric at some point in the future, but for now, I think it's great to kind of look at what is the main rhetorical strategy being used in each of these quick images. We've got healthy, happy girl, do what she does, be healthy. This one is just kind of like great visuals. I think that this designer did a great job for London. He's done a few of them we look at. But we've got quite a lot of the wartime ones as well, because those are fantastic, especially disease and things. So let's look at this. Beware, drink only approved water. Main thing they're doing, fear, right? The skeleton down there, it's a pretty striking image of seeing your own corpse. So fear, and fear falls under the general zone of pathos. Kissing can be dangerous with the mass. I think that is both a little bit of the fear of disease, but with humor in this image. So again, pathos, because pathos is a very quick thing you can do to engage an audience. This one, don't spit. We're dealing with tuberculosis in quite a lot of these, which, by the way, is what the masks were for in this one. Shame, right? We got the little guy with the red face, fingers pointing at him. Public shaming. Public shaming for spitting in the street, which is kind of no longer on the menu, certainly in our culture. All right, the loaded, don't take chances with pickups. So one night stands are dangerous, kids, slash soldiers. We've got the gun. So we're putting the women as, as dangerous as a bullet. So again, fear, pathos, but notice like who's at fault here? I guess the lady who got a disease from another gentleman, but that's another whole topic to download. I've got the mini analysis here. We get into this one, let the electrician do it. Wrongly wired plug causes death. You've got this newspaper article sitting here with a bunch of loose wires. Again, fear. So most of these are going to be pathos because that is the quickest way to engage an audience. A handkerchief in time saves 9, cough spread diseases. I think it's catchy. It's kind of where we get our idea of like slogans work because you can remember them. So rhyming is catchy. Notice who we're saving here. Mostly the infrastructure work support and our medical professionals. Here, fantastic. Our carelessness, their secret weapon. So a woman that you meet at a club, again, trying to reduce or mitigate the promiscuity of soldiers during wartime to keep sexually transmitted diseases down. The quickest thing they can do to sort of make that stop, as opposed to being like, it's your responsibility. Be scared of the women. Basically, a loose woman is a Nazi, and she's infiltrating in this insidious way. So we've really thrown the blame and the shame on the women, but these posters are absolutely aimed and targeted at the fighting men abroad. So we don't really care what it's doing on a larger feminist social structure, which you can care now, but you can see that with their audience, and the quickest way to get them there is when they're standing there and seeing a pretty girl at a nightclub to go like, ew, and be scared of them, feel threatened by whomever may be willing to go home with them. So there's a lot of sort of bad feminist propaganda going on there, but think about the audience and that pathos of sort of like fear and mixing it with our hatred of the Nazis, because that's who we're fighting. So we got the swastika there and a lady in a nightclub dress. Again, pathos is that sort of that big blanket, but that doesn't explain what we're doing. We're getting that like fear, that hatred. These are quite cute, very family oriented. The Well Bee says, be well, be clean, wash your hands. And it's got the steps for washing your hands properly. Mascots, again, quick, just like a slogan is quick. These are advertising campaign stays because they're memorable. Deadly exchange, don't share needles. So again, AIDS campaigns and other diseases that you get from sharing needles intravenously. I think it's interesting to note here that that's a pretty fancy lady's blouse and looks like a pretty fancy gentleman's cuff as well. So they're kind of, I don't know, saying that it's a classless concern, that everybody needs to be concerned about it. They're kind of, I think, interestingly, not necessarily pointing towards any kind of poverty, homelessness, classist problems that can come from sharing needles. And if you happen to have an intravenous drug addiction, do you bother buying and wearing fancy blouses that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons on the collar or the cuff? Probably not. But I kind of appreciate that they've heightened it to be like, this isn't just a homeless problem or a men's problem. We've got kind of 2 genders, we assume, here. And this, again, is from that very early AIDS campaign in Britain. This is a great one for trying to reduce malaria. So workers in places like laying the railroads, there's swamps, malaria. Again, we've got fear. We've kind of made this like scary mask, but we haven't vilified a person or a class of people or a gender or a group. We've vilified the mosquito, and that is actually who you've got to fight against in malaria. Be afraid of mosquitoes. And so I think this one has stood the test of time well to be nearly 100 years old and isn't necessarily offensive while still using fear as its pathos. I mean, that's kind of a scary, deadly mask there. But again, it's clever advertising about fear the mosquito. Make our men as fit as our machines. Again, this is that regular health checkups and blood tests for working men. I think this is post-war, so we're still getting the men that we have left, our able-bodied men, back to work in sort of those labor positions. But again, it's that like, who's our audience? Well, everybody, but we're favoring that men need to be healthy to do those labor jobs. This one is just so wrong. All right. So again, we've got the mosquito is the bad guy, but don't go to bed with a malaria mosquito. Notice how they've made the mosquito into a sexy lady. But it goes along with, it's the same culture, that same era where we vilified the women as being loaded with STDs, or it's their secret weapon, with every lady at a nightclub is secretly a Nazi. So this kind of conflating that like women and being careless in bed with being careless with your mosquito net in bed. I guess it's clever, but still very problematic. This one is like that, the most intense example I could possibly find. So you've got Hitler and Hirohito, and the worst villain of all is the sexy lady in the night clubbing gown who has a venereal disease or a sexually transmitted disease. Again, deeply vilifying women who have sexually transmitted diseases because their priority or their only goal was healthy soldiers at this time. So getting there, preventing disease. I mean, we've just got a striking image of a well-to-do gentleman being responsible with his handkerchief, be just like him. That is very much like this, healthy looking little blonde girl. So again, it's kind of that aspirational, like do like those people that you look up to and respect. So I hope that helps. Most of these kind of fall into that like pathos zone. They haven't given us a ton of information or statistics, but they've done it very differently. So rather than just saying flat pathos, figure out the message that's being sent and what kind of emotion they are preying on. So shame here, humor a bit here, but also fear with the dangerous, and full on fear of your own death for that one. So that's how rhetorical analysis works. Look at what it's trying to tell you, look at what emotional reaction you're getting, and then kind of piece together the narrative that you're getting either from that image or that text. I hope that helps, and carry on.